Hey there, welcome to The Magic in the Music. I'm Jen. Today I'm going to be talking about the most recent episode of John Oliver's show, Last Week Tonight, which you can see on HBO, because he talks about, you guessed it, timeshares. And of course, on this channel, we do a lot of talking about Disney Vacation Club, which is the Disney version of a timeshare. So I thought that this was the perfect video for me to react to and address some of the questions and issues that he raises in that video and be able to speak to those things as a DVC member myself and someone who does a lot of education around Disney Vacation Club. So if you've ever seen Last Week Tonight with John Oliver on HBO, you know that this show tries to expose injustices and consumer advocacy kinds of topics, often doing really ridiculous and kind of entertaining skits, and sometimes sort of stunts at the end of the show to prove his point. It's actually a pretty entertaining and often very funny show, and I've seen many episodes of this series. So recently, when he put out a show on timeshares, of course, we had to watch it because we were really curious to see whether the timeshare that we own, Disney Vacation Club, was part of these problems. And why would I even listen to you, Jen? You might be asking yourself, well, we've been Disney Vacation Club owners for many years, owning contracts that we have purchased directly from Disney and also owning resale contracts as well. So on our channel, we strive to provide objective information about DVC, and most importantly, we are not sponsored by any DVC related business. So you can trust that what I say on the channel is my opinion or the opinion of our family and not the opinion of a business that's trying to sell you something. We are not paid by Disney, we are not paid by Disney Vacation Club, and we are not paid by any kind of business that is involved with Disney Vacation Club. So this is really just my opinion. And if you like what you hear and you want to support the channel, you can do that with Patreon. You can do it by buying something in our shop at themagicinthemusic.com. But we are not trying to sell you a timeshare. What I am here to do is to help you get the information to make good choices for you and your family. So the first point that John makes in this video here is that he talks about how timeshare companies will sometimes go to extreme lengths to sell the timeshare, and that the presentation can be hours long and extremely high pressure. Yes, that is definitely something that I have heard of. I have not experienced it myself because I haven't subjected myself to a timeshare presentation ever. But I mean, it's joked about all the time. It's in cartoons, it's in TV shows. People, it's kind of always a joke that you don't want to sit through a timeshare presentation. I remember seeing an episode of South Park where they're trying to escape the timeshare salespeople. With Disney Vacation Club, it's generally a very different experience. We've never actually met with our DVC guide, and the guide is the salesperson that sells you the points. We've never actually met with our guide in person at all. We've spoken to him on the phone, and we have emailed back and forth with him when we've made purchases. So we've never been in a room with him and felt pressure or anything. It was us reaching out to him because he could sell us a product that we were interested in buying. DVC does have some office locations. They have one at Saratoga Springs at Disney World, and currently they have one in the Grand Californian, which I imagine there'll be something in the Disneyland Tower when that opens. And presumably at the other DVC locations in Hawaii and Hilton Head, and then, like I said, Disneyland. So those would facilitate people purchasing DVC if they wanted to do that while they were there at the resort. But every time we visited or checked in or spoken to any representatives for Disney Vacation Club, they've always been really friendly and low pressure. We've never had anybody go after us. If anything, they're almost a little, I don't want to say disinterested, but they are, I think, accustomed to having people react really negatively to this idea of pressure from timeshare salespeople. So they tend to really back off and very much just kind of let you come to them if you're interested. So they are clearly aware of this negative perception, and so they kind of do the opposite of that. So we've heard from other DVC members that the typical experience, if you want to go and do sort of the tour, is that you would arrange for a pickup from your resort, and you could have, like, any cast member could probably call in and set that up. But there are also people in the theme parks that you can go visit them at a kiosk, and they can set up one of these appointments for you. One of the DVC vans comes to wherever you're going to be, and they're going to pick you up, take you over to the sales center. They have an ice cream shop there where they give you ice cream. And I think they might even have childcare. I don't know if they still have that. Someone comment and let me know if they still have that. And so the idea is to give you some time to sit down, have it explained to you, and then answer your questions. DVC guides are really known for being low pressure, like I said before, and very often will send guests just on their way to let them make a decision about it. And so it is not uncommon for somebody to go and do the tour and then leave and then later end up calling back and wanting to make the purchase later on, because they will let you go and think about it. There isn't this sense that like you have to buy this right now. So it really is a different experience from what I've heard. If you have done the tour before, I would love for you to tell us in the comments what your experience was like so that we can know firsthand what that's like. Also, typically, if you do the tour, they'll send you on your way with maybe some back in the days of fast passes for rides, maybe gift cards, some kind of perks that are going to compensate you for the time that you have spent doing that tour. Many members have a real like friendship or relationship with their guides. They love their guides. Some of the members actually correspond with their DVC guides. We all pretty much know our guides by name. Almost all of us know the first name and sometimes the last name of our guides. And we know how to reach them quickly and easily too. I know our guide, we have spoken to him on the phone and via email. He's actually our second guide because the first guide we had for the first few years, he ended up moving on to a different job with another company. And so then we were assigned a new guide and we've had him for many years. And every now and then we'll get an email from him or a check-in, and he's been very friendly and I have zero complaints about it. Some members, on the other hand, are like super into their guides. They are like, this is the best guide ever. I love them. And they call me on my birthday every year. And they call me when I check in at the resort. And oh my goodness, that's fine. I don't need that level of engagement from a DVC guide, but that's how some of them operate. And some guests absolutely love that. So it's kind of like their friend there, at Disney. And that's fine. That's a high level of customer service. So that's great. Another question that comes up is, do DVC guides lie to you during that sales pitch? Well, I mean, obviously I can't say whether they 100% are truthful about everything. My policy is that you need to do your due diligence. You need to check everything. You can trust but verify is sort of what it is when it comes to Disney Vacation Club. I've never experienced being lied to directly by any DVC employee, but sure, it's possible that some of the guides or representatives that you meet don't fully understand certain elements of it, like maybe the reality of booking certain room types at really busy times of year. Maybe they don't fully understand the dynamics of that. That's exactly why you need to be doing your due diligence and your research. If you are considering purchasing Disney Vacation Club, that's what our channel is for, is to help you learn and understand whether it's the right fit. I am not just like 100% everybody should buy DVC. I am really about like, you need to know what this is and you need to know if it's a good fit for your family. Because if it's not a good fit, you're not going to be happy. And if that's what you learn from my channel, then great. There's a lot of value in that. Okay, the next part of John Oliver's segment is talking about rescinding the purchase. There are laws, at least I can speak to Florida. Law allows for 10 days. You have a 10-day period when if you have made the purchase of the timeshare, you have 10 days to change your mind and get your money back. So in the show, John Oliver talks about how this could be really difficult with some timeshare companies to be able to do that. Again, we haven't had to rescind a purchase, but we've always been notified we have that right to rescind. So I know it's possible this could be complicated, but we do know people who have. We've seen comments and had conversations with people who have rescinded purchases before from DVC, and I have never really heard complaints about that. Again, if you have a complaint, the comments down below is the perfect place for you to let us know about your experience rescinding your DVC purchase. Some common reasons why people might actually end up rescinding their purchase is, well, one, if they just made a mistake and they realized it wasn't a good fit, they can rescind that purchase. Another common reason is that they learned about resale when they got back home and they started researching and they realized, oh, I could go buy a resale contract. Depending on your circumstances and the home resort that you want, that might be a good fit for you. And so they might choose to rescind their direct contract and then go back and buy a resale contract instead. So basically they found it a better deal elsewhere, so they rescinded their direct purchase. John Oliver also sort of takes issue in this video with the 10-day window to rescind a contract. I mean, I think it's like pretty reasonable amount of time. He's kind of saying, well, you might not be home from vacation. Well, I certainly don't take super extravagant weeks-long vacations, but maybe some people do. I think 10 days is reasonable. If you've made a major financial decision and you haven't reflected on that in 10 days, or at least jumped on the internet and did some research, I don't think that's like really unreasonable. Sure, it'd be nice if it was a month. It'd be nice if it was 30. More time would be good. But at a certain point, I can understand there needing to be some sort of cutoff. Okay, the next issue that they discuss in this video is the cost of the contracts themselves, the timeshares. So John Oliver does accurately describe the nature of maintenance fees. And DVC does have maintenance fees. It's just part of the reality of owning a timeshare. So DVC is very upfront about it. There's no hiding it. In a lot of their sales materials, they show you the cost of the contract and the cost of the maintenance fees and the closing costs. That's it. There's nothing else. I feel like that information is right out there, and I don't really take issue with that at all. So another criticism that comes up in this video is they talk about how availability can be really tough. So, in theory, you could be paying for a timeshare that you never get to use. This gentleman here in this video, in this interview, he talks about how he called too late to schedule, and then he called too early, and then he called too late, and it was sort of confusing. He didn't know how to use the product. Now, again, I'm not blaming the consumer, but with Disney Vacation Club, it's really important that you do understand how the product works and how the system works so that you can be successful in booking the things that you want. We've never ever had a point go unused. And a lot of DVC members, we view our points like they're gold to us. Like we don't want to ever have anything go to waste. So we're really careful about how we plan with those points. DVC can be challenging to book at busier times of the year in really popular room categories. And I have a bunch of videos on our channel where I talk about the hardest things to book. But there are also things that are very easy to book. We've never not really gotten what we wanted, or maybe had our second choice rather than our first choice, but like 90% of the time we get our first choice for what we want in terms of accommodations. So it's not really been a big issue for us, especially if you travel to Disney World and you are looking to book something for Disney World, because there are so many options on property at Disney World that if you don't get the desired resort, you're probably going to get another resort instead. And that's usually fine. With Disney Vacation Club, you also have the option of using a wait list, and we love wait lists, and we have had a lot of success with wait lists. That's if you don't book right away and then you come in later, like you're doing last minute trip planning or something. Wait lists really can be your friend. So the owner that they showed in the video, he didn't really know when he was supposed to book his timeshare. With DVC, you definitely know exactly when you're allowed to book your home resort. It's 11 months from your check-in date on your home resort. And then other resorts outside of your home resort, it's 7 months before your check-in date. So these are very clearly presented to buyers. There are calculators on the DVC website. It's like right at the bottom of the page. You can calculate exactly when you're able to book. And so it's really transparent about that. They do a really good job with that. Even still, if you are somebody who likes to book things last minute, DVC is not really a great option for you. I will be completely honest about that. I discuss availability of certain room types, and actually I'll sometimes even give a snapshot of 7-month availability in different videos. So you can check those out on our DVC playlists as well. You'll probably find that to be very helpful information. There's also kind of an element of, I call it gamification of booking reservations. And so getting those most desirable rooms that are very low inventory, and there aren't tons that are in that category, but there are just a few. It's kind of a game, like, can we get it? Can we do this? Can we not get it? And then of course you always have a backup plan. But if you are that kind of person, and a lot of Disney guests are those kind of people, we used to be booking fast passes. We're always kind of vying for those dining reservations. You might actually kind of enjoy the game of finding that diamond in the rough, that amazing unicorn of a DVC reservation. But for the most part, most of our reservations are very easy to book. Okay, so this next segment of the video, John Oliver shows a timeshare owner who was pressured to upgrade her timeshare in order to get a lower interest rate. So we're hitting on a couple of different topics with this one here. So this is really frustrating to me. This makes me really sad to see this happening to a customer, particularly an older person, because they might be more vulnerable. They might be more susceptible to these pressure tactics. This is not going to happen with DVC. You are not going to upgrade your DVC membership. Yes, there are direct perks, eligible members and not, but you know like exactly what you're going to be when you are becoming a member. There's not really an upgrade that you're going to buy yourself with DVC, so it's not a thing. But it's awful that happened to this lady, and unfortunately people like her. The other thing that this woman mentioned is the interest rate. And so this really touches on the idea of financing these. And sadly, it sounds like a lot of people are financing timeshare purchases, which we really do not recommend. Yeah, there could be situations where this makes sense for a particular buyer, and you know your own situation. That's on you to decide what's best for you. But our general advice is don't finance a timeshare purchase, particularly not DVC. In fact, I wouldn't buy any timeshare other than DVC, to be honest with you. My rule of thumb is that if you would be completely financially okay if the money you spent on your timeshare, in this case DVC, disappeared tomorrow, if it was just poof, gone, and if you're still financially okay with that, wouldn't be disastrous, wouldn't be a hardship for you, then you're probably okay to buy DVC if it otherwise matches your travel habits and your needs. Otherwise, then it's not the right time for you. You're not in the right financial shape to be able to make that DVC purchase. And this is why it is so important that you do your due diligence and research before you buy DVC or any timeshare. Whatever you are looking at, this should not be an impulse decision. You need to think carefully about this decision. Okay, so the next part of this Last Week Tonight episode is dealing with getting rid of the timeshare. And this can be a big problem if it's not a Disney Vacation Club timeshare. So the perpetuity clause is something he talks about. I'm going to call it insidious. This is kind of awful. In the show, John Oliver explains about the perpetuity clause that many timeshares have. This means that the timeshare lasts forever. It does not go away. That is absolutely not the case with Disney Vacation Club. Most of the DVC resorts have opened with a 50-year contract length. There are a few that opened with a little bit shorter length, but the majority of them have opened with 50 years, and there is a set expiration date for that resort, and that is set from the moment you are purchasing that. You know exactly when that expiration date is. It's a set date for all of the contracts for a particular resort. So regardless of when you buy the contract, the expiration date is going to remain the same. While some people complain that their contracts will end and they're going to lose value, and yes, that's true, it's also true that these are not going to be a burden to generations of your family members. All good things must end, and so too must DVC contracts. In the show, they go on to discuss people who do not want to inherit a timeshare. This really isn't an issue with DVC because while you can inherit it, it's possible, you can also sell it, or you can, it'll eventually expire. I know an attorney that handles divorces, and he said that nobody wants timeshares when they're getting a divorce. Like, people fight over who's going to have to take the timeshare unless it's Disney. He said that people will fight to the death to keep their DVC contracts. All right, so let's talk about how you get rid of a Disney Vacation Club contract. Can you sell it? Yes, you absolutely can. In fact, there is a thriving resale market, and there has been for quite a long time, many, many years. DVC contracts are resold all the time, every day. And there are entire companies devoted to reselling these contracts. Disney also takes back a percentage of the contracts in a process called right of first refusal. They purchase them back. I have a whole video talking about that, and I'm going to link it right up here. Basically, Disney has the option to step in and buy any contract that they want to. So they can prevent people from buying or selling DVC contracts at super low prices. So you're not going to see a DVC contract that's worth like $0. Like they all have value to them. That helps DVC contracts to maintain their value, unlike other timeshares. And also most of them are accommodations at the world's most popular theme park. So that has a lot of value and people recognize the value in that. While DVC resale prices are not in a bubble right now, they're not super high. They've been a little bit depressed. They are historically going to maintain value fairly well. They've never had a gigantic dip in the value. So you, of course, not an investment, but they're not going to suddenly be worth $0 tomorrow. And like I said, if you are buying this, you also need to be okay if that were to ever happen. That hasn't happened yet in the years since DVC has been happening. All right, so John Oliver makes a very important point that I 100% agree with. This is not an investment. Absolutely true. I agree. Do not buy any timeshare, even DVC, as an investment. Okay, I want to talk about one other option. If you have a DVC contract and you maybe decide not to sell it, but you're not using the points, DVC rental is a really great option for people. You can rent out your points for other people to use. This can be done between private parties, or you can use a company to help set up the transaction and pair you up with somebody who is looking to rent the points. This, again, is done all the time. It is not a violation of the terms of DVC unless it's like a whole business you're running off of it. But if you just have some extra points, you want to rent them out, or you can't use them, or you got sick and you can't go, whatever, yeah, you can rent out your points. And there's definitely demand for those companies to get points that they can rent out. People want to rent these. Okay, the next thing that comes up in this episode of Last Week Tonight is the timeshare exit industry. I have to tell you, this is something I had never heard of before, and it sounds absolutely awful. So I have definitely never heard of this in reference to DVC because you can just sell your DVC contract. You really don't need it. You don't need help getting out of it. All you have to do is call a DVC resale company and they'll set you up. You can sell it as long as you don't owe more than it's worth, which, by the way, is another reason why you shouldn't be financing it. If you can't afford it, don't buy it. And if you reach a point of financial hardship in your life and you want to sell it, list it and sell it. So really pretty straightforward. Oh, but these stories of consumers trying to unload their timeshares is so sad. I feel awful for these people. Fortunately, with DVC, you don't have to worry about getting caught up in these scams because you can sell this on the resale market. In fact, in recent years, Disney has even sometimes offered to buy some of the contracts back from the owners if there were certain resorts where they wanted to collect more of the points to resell as direct points. But I will tell you that they offer a lower amount than per point than what you would get just going on the resale market. And there are many, many DVC resellers out there. It's a big industry. And so you can reach out to one of those people if you want to get rid of a DVC contract. We've bought before. I know many people who've sold on the resale market as well. And it really is a pretty straightforward process. All right, so on the show, John Oliver goes on to discuss Dave Ramsey endorsing one of these fraudulent companies. I'm not going to go into this other than to say that you just wouldn't need to get mixed up with any of the stuff if you have DVC. So Disney specifically addressed these issues when they set up their timeshare. They knew that they needed to make sure this stuff did not happen to their customers because they have a customer service reputation to uphold. And really, for the most part, they have. John Oliver's final point on the show is to warn everyone you know not to buy a timeshare. And I actually would mostly agree with that. I think that's pretty good advice. Industry-wide timeshares only have about a 15% satisfaction rate, which, wow, that's pretty low. On the other hand, DVC is only a very small fraction of this industry. And I also want to point out that in this video and in some other videos I watched in researching this topic, nobody even seems to mention DVC. And my guess is because DVC doesn't have all this controversy and high drama surrounding it because customers tend to be a lot more satisfied with their DVC purchases. So I think that's probably why they don't even bother mentioning it, because it actually goes against this idea that like timeshares are all kind of awful and evil, and sounds like a lot of them are sort of not great, or kind of ranging from not great to terrible. So it makes sense. Why would you mention one that people are having pretty good experiences with? Well, I don't have any data on DVC member satisfaction rates. I can tell you the businesses that are surrounding DVC, Points Rental, and resale companies, those things continue to grow and grow and grow. So people clearly want DVC. There are many member groups and forums where people share tips, tricks, and stories about their DVC experiences. Also, having a YouTube channel that does a lot of content around DVC, I see comments from hundreds of DVC owners, maybe even thousands, and the vast majority of those comments are positive. So I'd say the bottom line is that you need to do your research before making any kind of big purchase, DVC or not. I personally would not own any timeshare but DVC. We used to completely ignore DVC. It had that word timeshare associated with it, so I just wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. It wasn't until I dug a little deeper and I had an open mind about it that I realized it actually fit for us really well. We've gotten a lot of value out of it, and it's really been a great thing for us because it was a good fit for us. However, it's not going to be a good fit for everyone. DVC Add-on-itis is also a real thing. That is how members just can't own one contract. So this is another thing that kind of speaks to how DVC is different from other timeshares, because so many of us buy our first contract and we love it and we have such a good experience that we end up wanting to add on more points and buy more and more and more. And I have to warn you, if you do buy DVC, you may find yourself suffering from a case of add-on-itis, and the cure is buying more points. The Disney company has a history of looking at business models that are successful, then copying that model and putting the Disney brand on it. So if you look at timeshares, the cruise industry, guided tours like Adventures by Disney, retail, Disney stores, all kinds of things like that. When Disney does this, they take a look at the problems and the pitfalls with these industries, and they try to address them so that they can uphold the standards of their brand and the image, which has a lot of power and a lot of trust by consumers. Disney knew that they could not run DVC like most other timeshares, and I'm very happy to say they don't. Thanks so much for joining us today. If you want to learn more about how to get the most out of your DVC membership or research potentially buying one, check out this playlist right up here. We also think you're going to like this video over here. If you want more, you can find us online at themagicandthemusic.com. We're also on Facebook, Patreon, and Instagram. Have a fantastic day, everybody. Bye.